Shall we begin? Let's begin.
Good day, everyone. Peace and blessings to all, and welcome to the Mantality podcast. I'm Michael Tolan, and this is
Kevin Lewis. What's up, world?
Hey, people. How you doing? Today is February 16, 2018, and this episode's podcast topic is the things most important to maintaining any relationship. But first and foremost, I would like to touch on this week's hot topics and recent events.
Well, one thing that happened this week, the Winter Olympics started, Mike. I'm not sure if you watched the Winter Olympics or anything like that. But
No, sir. I'm not much of a Winter Olympic fan.
Okay, well, I figured while you was being warm and cozy up under your blankets, I was watching the United States accumulate 8 medals.
Okay.
5 of those are gold.
That's impressive.
But they still are, a couple medals away from Germany and Norway, which is, President Trump's favorite
Indeed.
place to visit, Norway, but we won't say why. So that's pretty much that about the Olympics. I'm not really a big fan. Don't really watch it unless, I don't watch it, so never mind.
Hey, I know we talked about Black History Month. Wasn't there like a black female bobsled team or something?
Oh, Jamaican.
Jamaican.
Yes.
Yeah. There was like a black, like a skater, speed skater. Or
Her name.
too, right?
Okay. I remember. That's from like last year or whatever, 2 years ago, 3 years, whatever.
It's not there anymore.
Nah, I don't know about that, Mike. And then
All
it had the is the gymnastics. That's the summer.
That's summer.
Okay, my bad. That's on me. Yeah. But other than that, we have Valentine's Day also this week, Mike. So what you doing Valentine's Day?
The big V-Day. V-Day. I don't know. I have mixed emotions about V-Day. I think it's just one of those days that's made up so that we can spend a whole bunch of money, right?
Give me that money.
Overpriced flowers and candies and stuffed animals and whatever else, right? Dinners and me personally, I feel if you're doing that stuff throughout the year, why pick one day to go out and express your love?
Put the quotes. He put the air quotes out there. You see the air quotes, peoples.
Yeah,
love.
So.
Although,
to be honest,
having said that, what you on?
I fell victim to it this year.
Okay,
so
I'm about to call you out.
I had to send a few things.
Okay, good. Okay.
What about you?
Well, I had a pretty peaceful actually. My wife actually stopped me at the door and said, "Babe, don't be going out buying no flowers and all that kind of stuff," which is not really my thing anyway, because I'm more of a throughout the year flower, balloon, edible arrangement type of guy myself. But my wife said that she wanted to do the most romantic thing we have done in a while, which was last year I came home and I made dinner. And after dinner, we sat on the couch, read the Bible, and just discussed how what we read coincides with our goals for our family and for one another. And, she enjoyed that. So we just, we did that again.
See, I think that kind of leads into our podcast topic for this week. I mean, things like that, those checkpoints.
No doubt. But before we touch on that, though, one other thing.
I'm not gonna jump.
Let's just talk about. There was a school shooting that happened this week, which was horrific, which was began to be a common occurrence this school year. So first, just let me say this. My heart goes out to the victims and the victims' families, but also to the shooter and his family. My prayer is for someone to touch his life and let him understand who he is in Christ, because this kid has a lot of evil at 19 years old, and it's not Christ's will for anyone to go to hell. So I just pray for him. I pray that he would have an awakening some kind of way. And, again, my heart goes out to the victims, of course, But this is becoming like a all too common thing, because the last thing I want to worry about as a parent, we have kids that's in school. The last thing I want to worry about is my kid going to school,
and not coming home.
Yeah, and not coming home. That's like the last thing on my mind. But now it's in the forefront. Every time we drop them off or whatever, we tell them, make sure you say a prayer before you go to school, and while you're at school or whatever. So,
yeah. I don't know. Is that something you can never truly prepare for? Because I don't know. It's one of those things. What it actually made me do a little research. Because I was interested to know, like, when was the first ever school shooting, and from what I found, it was like back in 1794, which was
1794.
1794.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it was one person. It was very personal. So it was
Had
one
to be.
person.
Had to be.
And back then, I think they only had the one-shot Derringers or something, right?
Wait, hold on. Stay right there. Let me shoot you again.
Musket, right? Yeah.
Wow,
and that's a good
crazy.
point. Nowadays, with these high-capacity magazines and some of these guns that they have, I mean, you can take out hundreds of people.
Multiple people, yes.
That's crazy.
Dude, but speaking of crazy, one of the craziest things that happened was the president actually got on TV and actually spoke about this event, but not one time did he use the word gun, which I thought was like crazy. I'm like, we need some type of gun control, I mean, because
realistically, yes. With all the money that the NRA contributed to the Trump fund, I think it was upwards of $30 million or so.
Dude, that's crazy.
Do you think he's gonna really say anything that would support gun control or go against the NRA? I think the NRA even rates these guys. They have like an A rating or F rating, A through F rating. Right. Yeah.
But you got to have some type of. Let me cut you off, Mike. But you got to have some type of ethical stance, though. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand, who lines his pocket, but I mean, but you have to make a decision that's best for the masses, not just for yourself, though.
Well, and that's the thing, A lot of times people only concerned, with what touches home, right?
Right.
So they don't care.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you're right.
For those are the hot topics.
That's top topic of the week, Mike.
All right. Now we'll transition into the meat of the podcast, which is the things most important to maintaining any relationship. So Kevin, if I were to ask you, what are your top 3 most important things to maintaining your relationship? What would you say those are?
Top 3 things, maintaining a relationship. I guess it would be me, my wife. No, I'm just kidding. Top 3 things. I think my top 3 things maintaining a relationship would be, in no particular order.
No particular order,
okay.
Or unless you want to.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Okay, then my order would be this right here then. First, I would say it has to be a spiritual togetherness. I would say next, I would say communication has to be very important, because you have to be able to talk about, maybe your likes, dislikes, and so forth, your goals. And third, I would say I think intimacy is very important.
Okay. Those are 3 good, very good 3.
Yeah, my wife told me to say that.
Very strong 3, right? We'll say strong, right? The beautiful thing about that question is it's a very subjective question. So, regardless if I ask one person, 100 people, 1,000 people even, we would have probably slightly different responses in the top 3. But on the flip side, I would argue that there would be some very common responses. Like, I'm going to tell you my top 3, and I think you've been cheating on paper, man.
Hey, that's how I do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But for me, my top 3 would be communication. I think definitely is one of those fundamental things that you have to have in any relationship, effective communication. And it's like, it's like a pillar that helps to form that foundation. And then it would be honesty, loyalty, trust. I believe those kind of all fall under that same umbrella. Although individually, they're different in their on their own. And then it would be affection or intimacy, as you say. I think affection is very important. So to me, those would be my top three.
Okay.
So very important to me.
Okay. But Mike, I would tell you that this is just my opinion. I think that we would all say pretty much the same thing, but I bet you money that we all probably view those things totally different.
Probably.
Though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. And maybe we can do that. We can kind of compare those right now, right?
Okay.
Actually, so since we have a couple in common,
right.
Maybe we'll address those first,
okay,
and then we'll address our differences.
Okay, so I think the one thing we had in common was what? Intimacy
or affection.
Okay,
and
affection.
So for me, I think affection is very important. I would say early on in some of my early relationships, I kind of struggled with it. And I think that kind of stems from partly due to my upbringing. I was actually, ironically, raised by women. And so you would think there would be a lot of affection going on, right? But no, it just wasn't that type of household. It wasn't like that. Although I knew they loved me a great deal, it just, I didn't see affection on a day in and day out basis. So, and I believe it's like learned behavior. So whether you learn it at 2 years old or you learn it at 12 or 22 or 42, it's a learned behavior. But just because I didn't see it or experience it a lot, I definitely craved it. So again, in my early relationships, I had to, I definitely craved it, but I struggled with it. So I wanted to really learn. And I think of, a couple women in my life for helping me along with that, because they were very affectionate. So, which helped me out a great deal.
Okay.
But yeah, as I think about it, have you ever read The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman?
Oh, by Bruno Mars? I read that. Yeah, I read that one
Gary
too.
Chapman, yeah. It's actually a decent book. I think it's things that we kind of know, but he kind of frames it a certain kind of way. But what it is he talks on, he suggests that there are 5 love languages that we all have. And out of those 5, there's 1 or 2 that are more dominant in each person, right? So we'll touch. Actually, I'll see if I can remember the 5. I think they were.
I'll help you out if you don't.
You're gonna help me out. All right.
I
think they're acts of service, gifts, words of affirmation, physical touch.
Man, you're looking at my paper.
Look
at this guy.
Really,
Okay.
really, no. But yeah, so for me, I think my top 2 out of the 5 are probably more so quality time and physical touch. So that physical touch is more so like, affection, right? And affection to me, there's different aspects to it, to affection. There's the raw physical, physical touch. You have that closeness or the intimacy, the sex, those type things. But it's nothing like, having, if you had a tough week at work, a tough day at work, to come home, you got your lady there, and, she just... Your wife, yeah. And she, greets you at the door, and, whether she... With a trench coat on. Yeah. But, if it's just sitting there watching Netflix or just sitting there having a conversation, relaxing, I think that those type of intimate, moments are very critical.
Are we watching Netflix or are we watching Netflix and chilling? What we doing?
I mean, it could start one way, it could end another, it's whatever. But I think it all, it all ties into it. And, but yeah, so that's my stance on affection. What about you? How do you view affection in a relationship? Hold on, I got a couple more things. I'll let you go. I'll let you go.
Well, affection. Well, because mine was actually intimacy, and see, to me, intimacy is a little bit deeper to me, because I noticed that when we actually go through spells, because I just thought it was my wife, but I noticed that I go through it also. Sometimes you don't feel like being like physical all the time. You know what I'm saying? So to me, intimacy to me would be Me and my wife just reading and just talking together. Me and my wife just, just becoming mentally, becoming intimacy, having intimacy emotionally. You know what I'm saying? Just different things. Because when I was younger, I used to think that intimacy is all about, hey, if my pants down on the bed over there or on the floor, then we not intimate. But now it's so much deeper than that, though. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because now it's like I've come to understanding that if I can't have intimacy, first of all, it starts with having intimacy with Christ to me. And so that's why I said earlier that it's a spiritual thing, because if I can't have intimacy with him, then I can't have intimacy with my wife. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I mean. So when I say intimacy, I mean just, to me, it's just taking my brain and my mind and my physical being somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, because whether we take our clothes off once a year or once a month, I still feel like we're growing closer. Yeah. If that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's what I mean when I say intimacy, Mike. Yeah. But then, too, you much younger than I am, so you still, vibrant and, everything else. So.
I'm 40 and I wouldn't say 70. But yeah, so do you believe that when it comes to affection or intimacy that there's one gender that's more affectionate than, like, are women typically more affectionate or intimate than men?
It's funny you asked me that question, because when you were just speaking, I was thinking to myself, when you said that you didn't really see it coming up, you grew up in a household full of women. Well, so did I. And I really think it's because my mom was too busy trying to be my dad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because, like, normally women to me are nurturing. They're caring. They're, give you that affirmation and show you, not to me, but just like maybe to my dad or whoever, how to be intimate. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so since we have so many absent men, I believe that now, like you and I grew up, we craved it as men, as boys. So to answer that question, I think now it's just kind of an individual thing. I don't think it's a sexist thing at all now.
Okay.
What about you? What do you think?
I don't know. I still find that, generally speaking, I think women still have that kind of, it's more so that nurturing thing.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
That affection, all that. I think it's still more so women that have that. Well, no, I can't say that. That's a whole other conversation. Guys are becoming more effeminate,
Whoa.
But yeah.
That's totally different, right? Totally different.
That's something in the water. So,
Boo. Go ahead.
Boo. But yeah, so affection, I think is very important. Like you said, you stimulate the mind. It's that mental connection, and it's definitely on a deeper level. It doesn't always have to be about the physical.
But I will say this though, Mike. I have noticed that that more women, when they do their 5 love languages, right, score like acts of service would be like one of their things, or like you would think normally that women would be like more physical touch or
words of
affirmation, right? Like that, but believe it or not, I'm hearing lately that more women feel like acts of service and just quality time would be like their 1 and 2.
So they feel they fix your plate or something.
Yes, yes.
Wash your drawers.
Hey.
Hey, that's the way they express their love.
Yeah. But the crazy thing to me is like, and I don't mean to go here, but my wife and I took it when we were going through our marriage counseling and stuff like that, and she would be expressing her perspective on love so much differently than I would. You know what I'm saying? Which made me think of this thing that I tell people all the time. It's funny that men and women, most women when we date, we think of a vibrant togetherness, the union, the relationship, and we think of it being, you have the sex, you think of it emotionally, and you think of it spiritually, right? Okay, it's funny because when the female gives up sex, she thinks that she's hooking the guy emotionally.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Because they tie their emotions
to
sex.
Yeah. And to me, when the guy gets the female to have sex, he's just trying up to the physical.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like no emotional attachment at all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so then you go down the line, you say, oh, he loved me, she loved me, blah, blah, blah. And you never felt the spirit, you never fed the spiritual, right?
Right.
And so then you get married, and then for some reason you stop having sex, or for some reason, you know, she starts to look differently, or you start to look differently. And it's like, man, why isn't our marriage working? Well, because you fed the wrong two things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's why I say you guys feed the spiritual first, and then all the other stuff will come.
Okay. Yeah, we'll touch a little more on that.
Right.
So off of the affection, now let's touch on the other one we had in common, which was communication.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, like, or do you want me to?
Oh, you can go ahead, Mike.
You want me to go first?
Go ahead.
So I think I touched on it a little bit. Communication, I think, is, again, it's like if there are like 4 pillars, you know, to create a foundation or to hold up a house, it's like communication would be one of those pillars, definitely.
Right.
It helps to form that foundation. Like building a house, you need a good, strong, solid, broad foundation. You know? And then you build it from the foundation up. So communication is that foundation, I think, or part of that foundation. You know, I think not just when we say communication, I mean effective communication. Because we can sit here and talk to each other all day if you ain't talking about nothing.
Don't say nothing at all.
And don't say nothing at all, right? Words just coming out of your mouth. But, you know, you have to, as part of that, you have to be a good listener as well.
Right.
Because if you're just over talking and you never listen to your wife's point or perspective, then, you know what I'm saying, you're not getting anything out of that. And I think communication also helps to stimulate other things. So, you know, you stimulate the mind.
Stimulate the behind.
The other, there you go. Yeah. The rest will fall into place.
I got that trademark, people, so don't be trying to.
You
I
got
want
a
to see on T-shirts tomorrow. Like that. You know
stimulate the mind, stimulate the behind. All right, I like it. But yeah, it definitely helps to, you know, stimulate other things. It helps to feed into that affection and you know, the other things.
This is one thing that I've learned, Mike, about communication, though, is that not only do we communicate totally differently, right, but women are more detailed.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Because you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you yes, no, hot, cold, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not going to be a whole lot of detail. So one thing I had to learn with communicating with my wife was that I had to learn how to be patient and listen to all the fluff. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I don't really need the fluff. I just want to know, do you want to go to the left or you want to go to the right? You know what I'm saying? Like, the reason behind it wasn't really necessary for me. But as I get older, I learned that listening to that is just as much as important as the bottom line to women, I believe. You know what I'm saying? So now I would sit there for 20 minutes, and I would just sit there and just, okay. Because I learned how to communicate better. You know what I'm saying?
What about, like, you know, what's the possible ramifications of lack of communication in a relationship? So, like, if you're not talking to your wife, is it more so likely that she'll go out and find someone to talk to? Like, hopefully it's a girlfriend, sister, or mother, but it could be...
You better check the first podcast, but go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, we'll reference back to the first podcast, So, what you know, out of that, if you're not talking to them...
Somebody's talking to them, right? Because here's the thing: a woman speaks 21,000 words a day.
Is that an actual fact?
Well, that's written in the book. So you know, so I'm just assuming if I'm gonna listen to 7,000, somebody listen to the 14,000. You know what I'm saying?
In the mirror talking to herself, right?
You know? Well, I don't know at my house. I don't know, but no, just kidding. But yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree that if you don't do something, then somebody, whether it be a girlfriend, whether it be whoever, you know, I'm not saying it has to be anything derogative or anything, but I believe that they're going to get it out some kind of way, you know?
Right.
And one thing I did notice, I'm going to cut you off, one thing I noticed that when me and my wife were going through our situation, our ups and downs, one thing that she would continually tell me is that, I told you that, I told you this, I told you how I felt. But I don't know. I just wasn't. There were too many words for me at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, I'm at 14,002. I'm done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's learning.
I also think it's important, as we're talking about communication, like in a relationship, you should always have these periodic checkpoints, right? Like I liken it to like a GPS or navigation. Like if you set out a destination, you put in whatever your destination is. At certain points along the way, she's gonna scream back at you like, "Hey, in 2 miles, you need to turn here, get on this road." And so, in a relationship, I think you should have it kind of mapped out like that. You should, whatever your destination is, whatever your goals are, or whatever they are, you need to have these periodic checkpoints to where you sit down and you say, "Hey, we have this, and this that we're trying to do. Are we still on the same? Are we still on the same path? Are we still in alignment?" And even it could be that checkpoint to see if you're in line spiritually, mentally, emotionally, so forth and so on. But I think you should have those, I call them GPS checks. And whatever the frequency you determine, whether it's every 3 months, 6 months, every month, whatever it is, you should. And it's probably no different than counseling, right? That you may go to. I'm sure you probably talk about those type of things in counseling as well, right?
Yes, we do. We do.
So I think that's a big part of communicating, to make sure that you're still aligned and you're on the same path. You're seeing eye to eye, basically, in the relationship.
But if I had to interject just one time, I would just say this right here. I would think that if you really want a healthy, vibrant, lively relationship, then that communication, that checkpoint should be done like every other day.
Every other day.
Every other day.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, because I wouldn't want to wait a week to figure out what's going on with my wife.
Oh, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, clearly if there's an issue.
Right. I mean, but here's the, but if we're not communicating, then I won't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times people just are, I'd say the word passive aggressive for one, and then a lot of times, like my wife feels like, because this how I am, and I don't know about you, but if I see something that's bothering you and I ask you once and you don't tell me, then I take a step back and just let you work it out and say, you'll talk to me whenever you're ready to talk to me. That's how I do, because that's how I want people to do me. But my wife doesn't do that. If I asked her once, she'll say nothing. She wants me to ask her again.
Oh, okay.
And again, I mean, really, you know what I'm saying? Well, you didn't ask me how I was doing. I'm like, well, you said that.
Right.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? So having said that, I just realized that that's something that I try to do every single day. You know what I'm saying? And like in the morning time when I'm up getting ready for work or whatever, we'll discuss where we are compared to where we said we want to be.
Okay.
Like the goals that you just talked about. So, yeah, that's what I think.
That's good. That's good. On a much deeper level, do y'all? I would assume that y'all don't have those true soul searching conversations like on a daily basis, right?
No.
All right. Fair enough. What else with communication? Is there anything that we're missing?
No, just to me though, just like we hear all the time, just how important communication is, right? But I think to learn how to listen is important. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because we always reference back to be quick to listen, slow to speak, right, and slow to get angry, because I've found that a lot of times when people don't speak, it's because they don't feel like they have a safe place to speak. You know what I'm saying? Well, if I say this, he's going to get mad, or if I do, whatever. And so, like, one thing I've learned in my household is that I have to give my wife a safe environment to say whatever she wants to say. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to make sure that she always knows that no matter what it is, we can talk about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's what I always say, constantly. I'm like, well, hey, whatever it is, we got to be open and honest enough with each other to be able to talk about it. Because if we don't, we just walking around looking at each other, crazy.
Faking the funk.
Yeah,
Faking the funk.
So whatever the issue is, we can always talk about it. And that's the way I would like to maintain it,
But it is kind of hard sometimes. We can talk about this at a later date. But do you think it's kind of hard to be honest all the time, though?
Yeah, that's a very difficult task. Yeah. Very difficult.
Okay, well then we're gonna get off that.
We'll get over that. Because I was about to. I had a couple of thoughts about that. I was like,
we'll do that later.
Because there was a saying, but we'll
go ahead.
that.
What you got?
Just at another time.
Okay.
I think you may have asked me the question. who do you lie to? You know, the one that you love or the one that you really don't care about? You know, it's like, so think about that.
Well,
but anyway,
hello.
yeah, that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
But for the most part, just my answer in two brief things is I would just say that damn, I guess it's a good question. Because I try to be honest, like most of the time, unless you're asking me how you looking
at it. And I'll tell you, from my experience, the best way to be is just forthright and straightforward. It may not be in your best interest sometimes.
That's how you know. That's how you know you love somebody.
Right.
To me, that's how you know, because when I tell you the truth, and I know it's gonna be detrimental to me.
It's gonna be an avalanche.
Yes,
right?
and
okay, I know this avalanche is about to come, but
that's when I knew that because one day I told my wife something when we were separated, and she took it totally. I talked to God before I even told my wife. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tell her this right here, Lord. Oh, no, what I'm gonna do. But her response was totally different.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I'm gonna start telling the truth more often. Then, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get out from under this doghouse and get back in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My experience with that was like, it was early on I learned that, because it's like, I didn't like drama, and I had a situation, man, to where, you know, these two females, you know, tried to front me out at my house. And this is when I lived in Virginia. So, I don't know, some of my friends that may listen to this, they know the story, but yeah, so out of that situation, I just told myself from this point on.
Oh, that's it?
I ain't gonna tell no details of the story. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I told myself from this point on, I'm just gonna tell it, whatever it is. You know, if they don't like it, then they don't like it. But,
well, you know, that's one thing I have noticed about you, the years that we've been friends, that you shoot from the hip.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, Mike sometimes he don't have attack. He just be bah, 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 bah. I'm like, okay, Mike, we probably could have said that a little bit different.
A little bit differently.
You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is.
But
so.
yeah, that's the way it is.
You would almost think, Mike, that communication should have been number one for both of us, because communication is probably the biggest thing. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think that's one of the biggest issues or the biggest reasons that people stray apart, or, you know, their relationships
yes.
downfall?
Yes.
Communication or lack thereof?
One of the, not the biggest, but one of the.
Yeah, because I think they say, what is it? Finances, infidelity, and...
Well,
but I think probably communication
would be bigger than...
well, you think about it, like, probably the infidelity could have been avoided had they communicated effectively.
Had I told you that I like your cousin, you know what I'm saying? Like, then we wouldn't. Nah, just kidding. You know what I'm saying?
But still,
that's communication, though.
But,
you know.
But like I just said, if you're forthright with that person, I like your cousin. Then that gives that person the opportunity to say, hey, okay, you like my cousin? We ain't gonna be together. You know, it wasn't, you know, destined to work anyway. If that's
right,
what you feel
right.
about that. But yeah, so I don't know.
But to me, the and I don't mean to switch gears, but to me, the number one thing, even when you don't have community, well, hold on. Like you said something earlier. You said that honesty, loyalty, and trust was a big thing for you. But to me, all those things are extremely important. But I think that all those things can be wrapped up in one thing, and that's spiritual. You know what I'm saying? Because if I know that we serve the same God, right? And God's word never changes, right? Then the same thing or expectations he has for you, he has them for me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so if you go into your closet or wherever you go to be intimate with God or Christ and spend your time with him, then I know without a doubt you can learn how to be intimate with me. If you communicate with him, I know without a doubt you can learn how to communicate with me. You know, even though, you know, he's your all in all, has your best interest, and he has the perfect plan for you. Because you know, God doesn't say, when God says what we don't want to hear, we take it in because we know it's for the best. But when you and I say something that they don't want to hear, it's like, oh, what? You know what I'm saying? Like we the enemies of somebody. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that to me, once I learn how to, once I learn to draw closer to Christ, I don't know. It's just like I don't know. It's like my whole relationship got better, and it's funny because I wasn't even focused on my relationship at the time. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because that's what I always say, and like not trying to be on a soapbox or anything like that, but it's just my spiel on what's important. The most important thing to me is a spiritual connection with Christ, because when you do that, finances won't bother you because you know that Christ is the supply of all your needs. And when you do that, communication won't bother you because you know that Christ says that we have to love our wives. And one way to do that is we have to wash her with the word, which is communicating. You know, we have to edify. We have to build up. You know what I'm saying? So, like, to me, all that stuff, all the other stuff can be avoided if we just spend more time pouring into this one area, which we talked about last week, and most men are failing in that area.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think you just trumped my honesty a little.
No, go ahead. You're good.
But no, I'll just touch on why I think those are important. And it kind of, you know, when we were talking about communication right there, and I was kind of talking about the honesty, loyalty, trust pieces, you know, being honest, being forthright. And, you know, for me, and you know me, it's like, I've mentioned this in the last podcast, is that, you know, I just don't warm up to very many people, you know, very easily. So it's more of a circle of trust thing, to use the reference from Meet the Fockers, I guess it was. But, you know, I keep my circle small.
This guy said Meet the Fockers. Go ahead, man.
I think that's where it came from, right? But yeah, it's like, when you have that type of relationship with somebody that you can, you know, fully trust them, you know, that your wife or, you know, whoever, I think that's very important. Because at the end of it all, you have to be able to trust that person that
right,
you're with.
Right.
And, you know, and that's on all levels. That person has to be, you know, they got your back in any situation. You could trust them fully in any situation. And I think that just, to be able to have that peace of mind that, you know, that this person that I love and that I hold dearly, you know, I can fully trust. I think that's super important. But the honesty thing, I think is very important as well, as long as we can, you know, be honest with ourselves as far as who we are, you know, what our expectations are.
But, you know, one thing you said was about trust, right? And you said that a lot of times it's hard for us to trust, you know, because that's a learned behavior a lot of times, or we drag our past experience or relationships into the new relationships. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But one thing that I noticed and I realized this is that I stopped trusting in my wife. I stopped because this is what I laid my hat on. This is why I'm still married today. Because there was a promise made to me, and the promise said that all things work together, right? Mm-hmm. All things work together for the good for those that love God and called according to His plan. And so I broke that down, and I said, okay, so what does this mean? I think I love God. He said, well, how do you love me? He said, okay, well, you have to love me by, he said, how can you say you love me but you don't follow my commands? So I said, okay, so what are your commands? You know, so I just broke it down further and further. And I just realized that I don't have to trust my wife. I trust Christ. And He said that everything's going to work out okay if I do this. You know what I'm saying? And I know His will is not for anyone to get a divorce. So He said, if you do this, I'm going to make sure that this works out the way it's supposed to work out. So therefore, I stopped trusting in my wife. I stopped focusing on my wife. And I gave all my trust to Him. You know what I'm saying? And it all worked out. And I was like, what?
Yeah. I can see that, but how about this? Like, and this may be a different conversation, but, you know, what about free will? Like, that person still has the free will to do whatever they want to do, right? To make whatever decision they want to make. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, when or if that happens, then, you know, what is there? Like,
Wow. It's funny, Mike, because I struggle with telling people the right thing because I always say, okay, God, you know what's in my heart, but that's not really what I want to say. Because I want to say what you want me to say, but I'm having a hard time grasping it when I know old girl over here is sleeping with two other men and she's married. You know what I'm saying? It's my friend. And, and so you tell him, hey, man, just trust and believe.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
How do you think having past experiences with honesty, loyalty, trust, or negative experiences with that impacts, future relationships? For example, if, let's say, in your prior relationship you were cheated on, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you not carry forth a certain amount of what's the word? But whether it's insecurity, whether it's cautiousness, whether it's skepticism, whether it's what are all these things that you may bring forward because you've been hurt, in a prior relationship, and your trust level is like, is very low.
I think I proceed with caution, but I think also that okay, I'm just gonna be 100. I bring it to my next relationship too. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I'm like, I ain't trusting you. I am not trusting you because I trust you. I trust somebody else before, and this is what happened to me. So therefore, I proceed with to put one toe in the relationship. You know what I'm saying? And if I can get a little bit more, then I stick a heel in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I won't truly go into the relationship as a whole until I feel like it's safe to do so. In the meantime, I done just jacked up probably a couple of months of somebody else's life, giving them a quarter of me,
right?
Which is pretty much what I did.
Yeah, because it's not fully vested
right,
at that
right,
point,
right.
But I think that's a process, whether it's marital relationships or whether it's friendships. I mean, well, at least with me, it's like you have to. It's a process. There's a building. It's like building like I said, building a house. There's blocks. You're stacking these blocks. You're slowly building up your trust, and then you get to a point. I think that's pretty natural. I think, like you mentioned, when you bring stuff from prior relationships, like if you're skeptical about something, I think we as human beings, we learn from our experiences, right? And so if you see this flag and that flag and that flag, and you had these things happen to you prior, and you recognize those flags, I think it's only natural for us to to kind of push back or fall back a little bit and say, hey, you know what? I've seen this before.
Right.
Let me proceed a little cautiously. So I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that. Although, I think ultimately when you're in these relationships, at some point you have to be vulnerable for your relationship to truly grow. You know what I'm saying? So, but I think all in all, it's a process, and it's steps that you have to take, to get to that point.
But you don't think though that as you get older and you mature, that a lot of things you can pick up on before you even spend too much time.
Oh yeah. You have to vet, that early vetting, and just by communicating.
Right.
I think you'll find out a lot of things just by talking to people. Because people gonna tell you who they are. Just let them keep talking.
Just let them keep talking.
Just let them keep talking. Who they are. So. A lot of times we miss things, especially early on in early relationships when we were younger. It's like you're so focused on the wrong thing that you miss a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of information they're giving you. All these signs, but you ain't paying attention to it.
Dude, you know what? You just said something. I heard. Okay, I'm gonna cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I heard a story. This lady I work with, she said that her and her sister was following the sister's boyfriend. Right.
What do you mean following?
I mean, like
stalking him,
like creeping behind him so he wouldn't see him, type of following. And that just made me think of, dude, like people have no idea what a healthy relationship looks like. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like who does that at 30-something years old?
Right.
Who stalks people?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like to me, if you're doubting this man like this or this young lady like this, then you shouldn't be there.
Right.
Like we just said, like they show you all the things. So like if I showed you something enough to make you doubt me to the point where you got to try to creep behind me while I'm driving and figure out where I'm going, and like, dude, well, I've showed you enough. I showed you enough already for you to just bounce.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if I don't care now, well, I'm probably going to care later either.
Right. And that goes into peace of mind. Like, I got to have peace of mind. So if I'm worried, extremely every day about she may do this or she may do that, then nah, I'm just not going to be in that situation because that's way too stressful for me. Like, I can't do it. But yeah, I don't know. I've had these conversations though. It's like I'm not about to be looking on your Facebook page or Instagram, looking through all your photos. I'm not about to be doing all that. Like that's crazy. That's too crazy to me. Like I said, you got to have faith in that, trust in that person enough to know that if there's any type of craziness that they approach with, that they'll just dead that, as quickly as it happens. So,
and that's where that open communication comes in. You know what I'm saying? Because if you give someone an environment that's a safe environment, then I don't really worry about telling you, hey, this guy hit on me today, or hey, this lady did, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Or this person was in my inbox.
Right.
And then we can laugh about it, like, oh yeah.
Because I seriously believe that when you're honest, it's the things that's small that you don't say that end up looking like it's a big thing. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm always honest with you, then you know that I'm going to tell you just about everything. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it'll be that one time where it's totally nothing at all.
Right.
You see it, you're like, what? Like, no.
Like, you didn't tell me about that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
You didn't.
Yeah, so.
Now you looking a little suspect.
Right. Which I have been known to look like. But not lately, babe. Not lately.
You got a hoodie on. That makes you look
Boy,
suspect.
I'm about to take this off when I go outside. It's dark, too. I thought he had a gun. That was some Skittles.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
But one thing about we were talking about earlier, the 5 love languages, right? And it's funny because my wife scored her top 2 things were my bottom 2 things, and my bottom 2 things were her top 2 things. You know what I'm saying? And so,
so how do you?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. Oh, wait, no. I'm going to answer. It's funny because my intent when I saw that was to try to feed more into what she thought was important. You know what I'm saying? Because like my wife, like I said earlier, was acts of service. So then I started like putting little notes on the mirrors in the bathroom at one time, or in her car, or try to buy her flowers I think she might like, or just stuff like that, right? And to me, if you buy me gifts, I get mad. Because I'm like, dude, don't try to buy my love. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude,
right.
You know what I'm saying? But that's what I did. But on the flip side, she didn't really do any of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wait, I thought the whole purpose of us doing this for, okay, that's mine, right? Okay, I know. Oh, okay, just as long as you know this. You know what I'm saying? As long as you know.
Yeah, there was supposed to be some type of adjusting.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Level set, I think they call it.
Because I want to say my top 2 was words of affirmation and physical touch, like you said earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm a strong supporter of edifying one another.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I believe that if a male, speak for myself, if I have someone that's behind me that's constantly building me up, you know what I'm saying? It just makes me just want to try that much harder. You know what I'm saying? Because you already have a will to not want to quit anyway.
Yeah.
And so like that just kind of like makes my non-quit will go to the 3rd power or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you need somebody to put that battery in your back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
See, for me, like words of affirmation is not very important. I'm not to be arrogant or anything. I'm pretty secure with myself, so I don't need a lot of that extra those extra words. But for me, it's like quality time and physical touch. So if we spend the time together and there's that affection going on and that physical touch, you got me. You know what I mean? Like that's what's important to me. I'd rather spend time with you, doing things and vacationing, and traveling, and that type of stuff,
and just enjoying one another.
Enjoying one another's company, like gifts. I've never been big on gifts, like receiving gifts. You don't have to give me anything for any occasion.
Right.
It's just not important to me. And but yeah, man,
Babe, Mike said that about the gift. So just so you, if you're listening, Mike said that.
So you want some gifts?
I want that diesel watch that I told him.
Right.
Nah, just kidding. Nah,
Right,
just
right.
kidding. Nah, I'm just like you though with the gift. It's not a big thing. I'm not a, you know me. I'm not a money make me money. Yeah, that's not me, dude. No.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I actually quit a job once because when I made more money at this job to take another job that I make less money, but I was happier.
You were happy?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I'm good.
Peace of mind.
Mm-hmm. People like, what you did? What? I'm like, dude, I have so much peace now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's never been an issue with me though.
Right.
And somebody said I was insecure, but no, but check this out. Do you really think though, honestly, that it's just insecure or not being secure yourself when you need affirmation?
No, you know what? I think we all need a little push, from time to time. I know you're a very driven person just from, being around you and talking to you. So I don't get the extra, but, and I'm pretty driven. So for me, I can only speak for me, but I just don't, I definitely, from time to time, it's definitely good to have that extra push. Like, yeah, hey, but because like we talked about last week, in my hot topic, I have this list of things that I'm trying to accomplish.
Right.
So sometimes I stagnate. I kind of lose focus, and it's always good to have somebody there that can kind of bump you into alignment. Get you back on track. You know how the bumper cars they used to get off track, little go karts. Yeah, you get them back on track. Now we can
bumper cars.
Yeah. So. But no, I agree. It's always good to have that person there, in your corner that can, that's got your back, that supports you in all that you do, that supports your visions, your goals, and dreams, and things you aspire to do. So, yeah, I get that.
I think your spouse should be male or female, should be your biggest cheerleader.
Your biggest cheerleader.
That's what I think.
Agree with that.
That's what I think. And I think so many times when that's not the case, you best believe somebody out there trying to be the biggest. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, Playboy, I got this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So Kevin, I think that kind of sums up our the things we had in common for our top three, as well as the things we saw differently, as far as most important to us. So I guess we'll just kind of get into like a wrap up, a summary. I'll just say, out of all this, again, it's a very subjective question. So
right.
What may be in my top three may not necessarily be in someone else's top three, but there are several things that are important into maintaining a relationship, but it is very subjective. So you just have to make sure that the things that are important to you align with the person that you're with. You know what I'm saying? So, and if they truly don't line up, then there has to be some type of compromise or adjustment. I feel so. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Well, my wrap up would be this: the three things. Wrap up would be first we touched on communication. Are pretty thick, so I believe that you have to learn how to communicate with one another, listen as well as speak. I believe that a spiritual togetherness will help us with the loyalty, the trust, and the honesty rolled up all in one. But I'll just end it with this right here. If you trust in Christ, you should be able to trust your husband or your wife. And we just leave it at that. So you be blessed, everyone. If you do anything at all, do it for Christ. And y'all, peace out.
Peace.
Peace.